Thank you for listening to Mailbox Money, your guided tour through safe, sacred, and speculative investing with a plan and a purpose to do more good with newfound peace of mind. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Mailbox Money. I'm Jackson Wood, joined as always by Ryan Kruger. In today's episode, we're going to share a lot of thoughts here and things that we have observed talking about the market. So over the weekend, after crunching through a couple thousand tickers in the annual stock tournament that took place this Saturday, I can't think of anything better to do on a Saturday. And then looking one by one at over 100 different price charts, we're compelled to share some grace and some peace of mind that we've observed and that we've discovered for anybody that's wondering what the heck is going on, right? It's a confusing market, a lot of concern, a lot of different opinions out there. And, historically, when we look at this historically, this is a pretty confusing market. It's a pretty confusing economy. It's a pretty confusing kind of just environment in general. And so, as always in the podcast and the goal of the podcast, we just want to share and offer our opinion and our open playbook and share what we're seeing, what we're thinking, and some observations that we're making.
Yeah, I was just overwhelmed, and that takes a lot for me to be. And if I felt I'm looking at these parabolic stock charts soaring, and even the most optimistic bulls knowing that doesn't end well, next door to these bears that had the most easily forecasted, agreed upon recession economy is going to fall apart, same year, same time. And how do you know what to believe? So we'll politely and affectionately, with I think a good deal of evidence, call this podcast episode Truth Serum. So our version of a truth serum, which is powerful and it eliminates the noise and the confusion. And it has stood the test of time for 2 centuries through a lot of these. It is the only metric, measurement, variable, however you want to describe all these confusing, sophisticated models to measure stocks that anybody can hold in their hand and know what is real. And I think most Mailbox Money subscribers know where I'm going here. And it took me a long time to get here through a lot of process of elimination. It's a dividend and the best clue to what happens next. And the only one we really need is if that dividend is improving. And then I'm also going to share today the best advice. So we'll talk about the math of this truth serum and what it's capable of, with some specific, really scary examples. And Jackson gets it's good that you're colorblind, brother, because when I sent you this bloody chart that we're about to show, thanks to McKay, I mean, you couldn't see all the red on this screen. But anybody else who's listening, get ready, because it is one of the scarier charts I've made in my career. But next to all that math and pulling the simplest truths out of that and what we're doing about it, and that's what we promised to do, and that was the idea behind this show that I give you the credit for, Jackson. And what we're seeing and talking about already, if we open up that playbook and share it real time as we're going through these earnings calls, we'll give a couple of specific examples, the raises and the reasons, as I love to call them, here in a second. But I'm going to also share the best advice aside from the math and that grace and peace of mind that everybody deserves to deal with this confusion at a historically high level. The best advice, I'm going to guess, nobody's ever heard, and the 3 most powerful words, in my opinion, in all of finance, all on today's show. So buckle up.
I love that. We'll contrast that good news at the end with kind of this scary chart. But I did have a question that maybe for the audience and for you, Ryan. So when y'all were having babies, was it a popular thing to do a baby moon?
A baby what?
Moon. It's like a honeymoon, but it's a trip for the parents before the baby gets here. Is that just a new phenomenon that has like captured my wife.
See that shows you. I wasn't playing that. It wasn't that
There
I
you go.
didn't hear
Yeah.
you. It's like I've never heard of that. But that shows even after 5 kids how much I have to learn. Nobody ever gave me a playbook. I'm still figuring this out. Moving two into college this week, so no, I missed that
Okay.
memo.
So
But that doesn't mean Carly's not right. She probably is.
well, okay. So, and this ties into the chart here. So, she's starting to drop these hints because we got a baby showing up in February, and she's like, "Let's go. Let's sneak away for a couple days or over the weekend or whatever." And so it's um, yeah, it's pretty common knowledge how cheap I am. And so whenever I can go on a trip, I like using, credit card points. And so as she's dropping these very subtle hints and starting to ramp up the intensity of these, I'm starting to think about, okay, I wonder if I could just cash in all of the credit card points and we can make this baby moon happen where I have to come out of pocket, a couple $100 or something like that. Seems like a pretty good scenario, win-win in my mind, right? So I'm scrolling through the app, the credit card app, and I'm starting to see that instead of advertising your balance and the interest rate that you're paying and all the downsides to using these credit cards, it's just bombarding you with like perks and you get to sign up for this and this. And it's really trapping a lot of people's eyeballs into the positive side, if you call it that, to using these weapons of mass destruction and distracting them from kind of this negative side. And the negative side is what one of the worst news or pieces of news that we have seen, and consumer fears are skyrocketing because their credit card balance hit an all-time high, $1.03 trillion. And I love that the chart is in red here. U.S. credit card debt is at an all-time high. And if you think about how scary that is, interest rates on credit cards are outrageous, 25+%, closing in on 30%. And we've got over $1 trillion of consumers kind of wealth trapped owing to the credit cards. So taking that and applying our kind of different uncrowded approach here, and one of the reasons that we talk about our 3 S's and our safe money, our sacred money, and our speculative money is so that you always have a contingency of cash. You never run into these issues of having to put expenses on a credit card and be charged the high interest rate and the compounding effect to your detriment on this side. But then we always ask ourselves, who stands to benefit from this, which is where chart number 2 is going to come in. And it's blue and red colors here. I had to ask Ryan before we went live, but it shows the decade worth of growth rate on the credit card or consumer balance sheet, basically their amount of credit card debt compared to the dividend growth rate for Visa and MasterCard. And so we've had a 53% increase in U.S. consumer credit card debt. Meanwhile, we've had a 648% increase in the dividend that these credit card companies are paying. And so as you flip your thinking here, one of these screams an opportunity and one of these seems like a very scary headline.
I want to teach any young investor or the most sophisticated investor that probably hasn't even heard the math I'm about to share of what that mailbox math adds up to in 10 short years. The same thing I want to teach any one of these kids, including Baby Wood. Whoever turns over the most rocks wins in this game. So every time I hear, isn't it awful? And there are more examples than ever. And this is a really good one. This is a humongous problem that has soared 50+% in 10 years and all sorts of problems that will result from that. I want to hardwire anybody listening to this to turn over the rock, turn over the page, the other side of that chart, as we've shown and shared. Who stands to benefit? Who's winning? If somebody wants to call me an evil capitalist for that, guilty as charged. Let's go do more good. Let's go help more people. Let's eliminate debt. Let's teach our kids stuff that they're not going to learn in college anyhow. All these college graduates and PhDs and master's holders are the majority of that $1 trillion in debt. The 600+% dividend pay raises alone in that same period of time is astounding. And what's most astounding to me, and the math behind why dividend growth is so powerful. I'm not even including any of the price appreciation, which is otherworldly for these companies. The truth serum of making this most simple, of how do you know what's real, you can hold that in your hand, and every single one of the financial plans or retirement plans, and we like to dunk on all of those with Freedom Day plans, which I believe are more powerful because it doesn't require an age or an asset level, but it requires income streams, free cash flow, exceeding all needs and wants to arrive at that Freedom Day at any time, at any age, with any asset level. And it's math. It's not opinions. It's not predictions. The truth serum of that dividend growth, I use this as an example because some people miss, and the best secret in the stock market hiding in plain sight is if you just looked at the dividend yield of those two particular companies, it looks so low. Over that period of time, the 10 years, the average current dividend yield at any time was half of 1%, 0.5%. Nobody would buy that for the dividend yield. The powerful mailbox math of the dividend growth, growing sixfold over that time, your yield of cost in only 10 years with any sort of patience at all exceeds the safe withdrawal rate of every single financial plan and retirement plan and blog and podcast and post and all the mayhem that my industry, our industry has caused trying to solve how much can you take out safely? How much do you need the market to work? And that's where all the anxiety comes from and all these predictions of recessions and price charts and confusing people. We've set up a dysfunctional relationship with the markets because we're expecting them to do something so we can withdraw enough, the safe 4% rule, which we have politely eviscerated over many episodes of this show. Just the lowest yielding companies you can find, if they're growing and providing pay raises, because not everybody does have a good financial plan, Jackson, and they do have $1 trillion in credit card debt, so they can grow their dividends sixfold in that short decade period of time. Your yield on cost is more than 4% that every one of these plans is built on hoping to withdraw from. You're not even withdrawing a penny as a stakeholder in those businesses profiting from those problems.
That mailbox math, to me, every single time I teach that or share that concept, it's just like a lifetime of light bulbs go off. And to me, that's just one of the most incredibly powerful concepts that really is the peace of mind. So the peace of mind that we promise to share in the midst of the terrible headlines and the terrible news is that look what this could do for you if you understand that compounding effect of the dividend growth strategy. And to me, that's a reason to smile while everybody charges their American Express at the merchant that they didn't need to visit.
Now, if anybody thought I was greedy before, you may want to switch to another show or turn down your volume because I'm about to get a lot greedier. That dividend growth rate and that yield on cost of 4 or 5%, we want substantially more from our roster of dividend growth, where in 10 years you should be able to get significantly higher. So I just picked the lowest yielding. I mean, 0.5 for 10 years to be able to still produce that kind of mailbox math. What if you had dividend growers at the same rate, but with a starting yield a little bit higher? That math and that compound. We'll share a couple of beautifully boring, simple examples here, but I'm compelled as I was looking through these tickers and charts at the confusion, and this year in particular, to give everybody some grace and peace of mind. If the smart money, and I do not say that terribly politely, if Wall Street consensus, the best of the best, could get it this wrong, you not only stand more of a chance, but give yourself a shot to know, and this year is proof that you can do better than all of them. All of the predictions of what will happen next, perfectly aligned with higher interest rates to just get off the boat. And if this recession, and if the economy's going to get turned upside down, we got all these problems, these headwinds, big macro headwinds, all sorts of problems. And interest rates finally gave them a chance to get off that boat and be done. I don't want to take any more risk. At the same time, the long-term investors and advisors and best of bulls, as we would call them, said, just hang in there. It's going to be fine. Now they're aboard some of these rocket ship charts. They now own the most out of balance indexes with the most risk at the worst time. Both sides of those boat right now, to me, I hear concern that they both want to get off. And as I'm flipping, that's why I was compelled to share this truth serum, as we call it, because I believe it's an antidote to cure all worries of predictions of what will happen, and a dividend simple truth. And why we so profoundly believe in it is simply what is happening. That's all. This is not our opinion, not our prediction. It is a simple piece of evidence of what is happening. So the couple of examples that jumped out to me over the same week, we were meeting with a brand new partner as we were getting these companies' report cards for earnings quarterly calls. And I'm smiling just a little bit as they're telling me about their worst problem that they need to fix currently. Again, with a hat tip to Jackson Woods SSS, safe, sacred, speculative. There's never any scared markets. We never have to wonder what to pull out of the market or when it's going to do. None of that. We have a contingency pile of cash. If somebody needs a new roof, and I'm one of them, it's coming from cash. It's coming from a plan already set aside. So the questions are answered before they come. But this legitimate concern and this moaning, which we hear all around us, every one of us, especially with inflationary fears, which is the new one that people forgot existed. And a lot of investors are dealing with it for the first time. They're worried about their investments, but in the real world, they're getting socked with some really, really bad news that is shaking some of these plans and leading to that $1 trillion in credit card debt. I asked him, what if I told you we just 2 days ago got a pay raise and you are a stakeholder in that same company that's putting on your new roof? And she elbowed him and she said, you mean we're sticking it to the guys that are sticking it to us? Yes, that is capitalism. If that's greedy, sign me up. I just got so excited. That simple, beautifully boring business. And I get really excited because all of the obvious problems that will distract us and all of our attention and confusion and anxiety, the antidote, the truth serum. And yes, I am evangelizing about this because this particular quarter was set up for this boring old roof company. There was tremendous amount of storms in a part of the country where the previous quarter, they benefited. It was awful. It's bad news. It's headlines. Ask yourself, turn over that rock. Who's putting the new roofs on? In every one of the problems, not just roofs and housing here. I'm personally taking it in the teeth right now with the new HVAC system. That sucks. It's expensive. It's hot in Texas, right? I want my agony paid for. And I couldn't help but notice, and it was a fascinating stat I wanted to share, another reason and raise and reason. I get so excited I turn them upside down even before I get to the rocks. So because of all the climate concerns, which is another humongous headline, retrain ourselves. Who's solving the problem? And who might be winning that nobody's talking about? Well, the crowds are worried about the climate and ESG. I looked, and I'm friends with my HVAC guy. The number of SKUs, the new products, the code when you buy a product, a SKU, 60% of HVAC AC installed equipment this year, brand new, just from last year, because they're more climate sensitive and they're better technology. These beautifully boring stories that have been around for 50, 100, 150 years keep getting better for good reasons that capitalism will solve those problems profitably.
I think it was maybe 3 weeks ago, I sent you a picture on a Sunday afternoon of my son and I at a tractor supply store. It's the only place in our town where I could find this repellent that got rid of rattlesnakes. We had a rattlesnake in our backyard. And as I thought about the pain I was going through of trying to get this snake out, at the same time, you can smile and you can elbow your partner as you realize, hey, the companies that we have to go to solve our problems can then benefit, which reward us as stakeholders. It's just an incredibly powerful concept. And I have this problem of every time I'm driving down the highway or traveling somewhere, I notice in my mind, and if my wife is with me, I'll say it out loud, a different company that we're involved with. And it's just a really good feeling, especially when there's all this bad news around. So with that, the three most valuable words in finance that I think certainly are, I shouldn't say I think, I'm positive are,
Does McKay, can he do like a drum? Can McKay do a drum roll, by the way?
oh yeah,
I don't, some sort of audio. I was watching, it was this documentary last night, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. The drummer's 61 years old. They've been going like 40 years. These guys are so awesome. It made me want to learn how to do the drums. I'm so amazed. I still have
you
time.
do, yeah.
I need a little drum roll because I truly believe these are the three most powerful words. But I'm giving you the alley oop at the rim to stuff.
Yeah, the drum roll here. Nobody ever says them. Very uncrowded. It's very simple. It's I don't know. And I can't think of a scenario where that's more applicable than the current environment, current market that we are in right now. And there is wisdom, an unbelievable amount of wisdom in those words and humility. And we're gonna go down this path for a minute. I don't know.
I think it's powerful. I think if you next time somebody tells you about how something's going to end badly, or optimistically and why you risk it all, and they're overly zealous about something, just reply humbly to them. I do a lot. I don't know. Or what if something happens? That's why I have sell stops. I don't know. I'll let the math and the evidence and the clues lead us there. I think you'd be surprised. One of my favorite of all of Buffett's quotes, everybody's talking about what he's going to do next or what he's going to buy in my whole career. What do you think Buffett will do? What do you think he's thinking? I actually think this is the more powerful lesson for investors that nobody talks about. He said, and I quote, "You'd be amazed by the amount of businesses I don't feel I know very well." The process of elimination. It's one of the reasons I escaped Wall Street in '06. All the things we don't need as investors that we can save time, money, and hassles and taxes on, making this simpler. Give yourself the grace and permission, the truth serum of, I don't know. The reality is nobody that's predicting them knows either. They're just not humble enough to admit it. All of the time you could save, the crowds that are convinced, it's really the things that Buffett did not do. And when all these concerns, understandably, I personally think the cheat code is turn off the news and politics. But if you want to entertain those and you have some sort of mechanism, I use sell stops for everything, not just stocks in my life, but when it's enough is enough, as long as if you're going to listen and entertain those pieces of bad news, as long as you just, I answered those questions. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that when my HVAC needs replacing, I'm going to do that. No opinion needed. When I need a new roof, I'm going to do that. And all the things that consumers should do about that credit card debt, the crowds typically don't do what they need to do. So I probably know what's going to happen there too. I think the lessons of what he didn't do, and over time, my favorite lesson for my kids is Buffett bought his house for $31,500 in 1958. When he was asked why he never moved, he explained, and I quote, "I'm warm in the winter, cool in the summer, and it's convenient for me. I couldn't imagine having a better house." Replace his HVAC or roof when needed, but he didn't constantly move the bar. And by the way, it's never too late. 95% of his net worth was made after the age of 60. So if you're listening to this, give yourself that grace and time too. And it's never too early. He made his first investment in 11. He said, and I quote, "Up until my 11th birthday, I was wasting my life. I made my first investment." Then he got after it. He spends the majority of his time reading old books. He says that's how knowledge works. It builds up like compound interest. That's what I like to do with these historically durable companies. Read, not predict. I'm going to end for the first time ever, Jackson, with a reading of a poem to show my softer, cuddlier side. If anybody thought that evil capitalist earlier who got really worked up and excited about this truth serum, I'll come back around and I'm going to read his favorite poem that I believe is a perfect capper to this truth serum and the power of a dividend simplifying. It's a Rudyard Kipling poem. "If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, wait and not be tired by waiting. if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. Both sides of the boat are confused right now, bulls and bears. Give yourself the grace and the peace of mind to not figure this out and say, I don't know. And in our opinion, give yourself an enormous advantage of no scared money in any markets with a simply balanced plan and the truth serum that a pay raise year over year that dividend growth provides, unlike any other metric I've seen. You give yourself back the most valuable asset of all time.
I absolutely love it. If anybody out there listening or watching this would like to get your own dose of truth serum or schedule a meeting with our team, you can email us, team@Freedom Day Solutions. Check out our website, freedomdaysolutions.com. And with that, we will see everybody next week.
This show is brought to you by Freedom Day Solutions, LLC, a registered investment advisory firm advising individuals and families nationwide. Performance is not guaranteed, and past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. To learn more, visit freedomdaysolutions.com. This show contains general information that is not suitable for everyone and was shared for informational purposes only. Any forward-looking statement or opinion expressed is subject to change without notice. Nothing contained herein constitutes investment, legal, tax, or other advice, nor is it to be relied on in making investment or other decisions. Clients of Freedom Day Solutions may hold positions in the securities discussed.